to be wood. First things first, I need to define the wood. So again, we go to our stock imagery. We can do that either through Adobe or through Unsplash. Let's see what Adobe has for me today, if it's got anything good. If I go to, let's see if it gives me hardwood flooring. Great. Adobe Stock, Adobe Fonts. Let's look on Adobe Stock. Okay. Lots of options here. Okay. This is nice. Let's steal this chevron plank flooring. Okay. So I'll download a preview. And again, like from our stock day, everything sort of has its own, rights uses, because you guys are students and you have Adobe right now. Your license gives you the education license. So if I was out in the real world, I wouldn't necessarily be able to use this completely royalty free, but we'll just use that. Okay. I'm going to save it to my library. And let's see if it will open for me. There we go, under my library. So here's my chevron styled hardwood floor. Let's see if I can just open it flat. Perfect. So I'm gonna just crop out the stock thing because, you know, because we're education, we can get rid of it. Make sure, again, that if you use this, you make note of it and we cite it on page 3 of this assignment 4, right? But for now, we've got the chevron style hardwood floor. It's fine. So I'm gonna go back over to my room, and just to keep things easy, I'm gonna just hide the rug and hide the couch for now. And I'm gonna define the area that I want the hardwood to exist. So I'm just going to, first of all, make sure I'm on the right layer. And we'll call this empty room. And I'll just marquee tool where I want. That looks good to me. And I'm going to use something that we haven't done yet. It's very, very fun, okay? But there's a few steps I need to take first. So under my flooring, I've kind of done it a little bit more difficult for you guys than it needs to be, but when we're working with things like flooring, wallpaper, curtains, textiles, that's where those patterns, right, the repeating patterns, the seamless patterns, can really come in handy. So let's do a recap on making a pattern. So I've got this plain wood, and if we remember from the previous assignment or previous lesson, we started with like a 3 by 3 inch square. Okay, I can kind of bypass that, and I can sort of just make this into my own pattern by using my pattern preview. Okay, so if I go up to view and I go pattern preview, right now it's telling me that this square or this rectangle is going to be the pattern. But I can see, like, it looks a little janky at the edges here, right? Because we've got variance in the flooring. So you could go in and you could, you know, redefine the area. You could make it into a square. You could find Let's see what happens if I do. Let's see. Let's just see if I go here. Right, what's happening is it's gonna cut off whatever part I need. Let's just see. Okay, so not amazing, but doable. Okay, and again, you can just like move things around, see what they might look like. Okay, let me open your world. Turn the pattern preview off. Let me introduce you to the world of seamless textures. So this, I haven't posted you this because I completely forgot it existed, but it's a great resource. Textures, I think it's called CG Textures. Again, don't pay for stuff. Oh, come on, guys. There we go. Okay, so this is a cool site because it gives you all these textures that you can work with for your projects. Okay, so let's just, for example, like wicker, wool, right? Like this is great, right? If you're putting like, you know, fabric on textiles or whatever. Let's go here to let's go to floors. And let's go to herringbone. Right, so it gives me all these options, and anytime it says seamless, that means that that can be used as a repeating pattern. Okay, again, I don't want you guys to just like put one of these in your project and call it your own pattern, right? If you use any of these kinds of resources, I still want you to like modify them and make them your own. Okay, but it allows you to understand the mechanics. So let's go to there's so many options. This could be neat. And what you're looking for is seamless. Okay. What we could just put in seamless. Cobblestone, granite, medieval. Okay, we need to make a decision. So let's just I guess some of our herringbone was a good option. Okay, this will show you how it works at the very least. Okay, so let's grab this one. Oh, or not. Oh, it wants me to use my credits. Oh my God. How rude. see if it lets me. Let's see if this will work for us. Go to my pattern preview. Not bad, right? Pretty good. Okay, so if I go up to edit, I can actually define this now as a pattern to use in my project. So we'll call this herringbone stone. Okay. And now I'm back in my empty room. We're going to do something that we haven't done yet that is quite fascinating. I can double click and a whole world opens for me, okay? These are called layer styles. And what we like these for are a lot of things. But in this particular instance, we're going to use the function of the pattern overlay. Okay? So right now, I've got my little selection is still highlighted, and that's okay. Right now, it's adding this overlay to this empty room. Okay? So I think first, let's just make a copy of this floor. Again, we love our Control J. So now we have just a copy of the floor. Okay, and let's open our pattern overlay again. So our layer style, let's go to pattern overlay. And now just the pixels that are on that layer get a pattern applied to it. So right here, I can click and I can decide what I want overlaid. So let's pick the one that I just defined. Okay. And why we're using the pattern or the layer style pattern overlay instead of just like copy and pasting the whole pattern and filling it in and all of that is because in here we can actually change and play with the scale, right? The angle, right? The scale and the angle are what we love, okay? So I'm gonna put it like, I think I want it to live in this world. And pay attention to our light, right? So if you're working with a background that you've like found on your own, and you've got like a lot of light, in your shot, you're going to want the light to match whatever you add to the room. So just be mindful of that, right? Like make sure the light is going in the same direction, all that good stuff. Okay. So this is like a decent starting point. I think I'm just going to keep it at 0. Okay. And I'm not going to link it with the layer. That's going to allow me to adjust and choose the portion that I want to show up. So I like this portion, and I'm going to hit OK. It sort of looks like there's a little bit of trim, right? So now this is where I can play with the perspective again, because just as this doesn't look believable. This doesn't look real. So I'm going to go back down to my perspective, and I can drag my perspective. Boo, boo, boo. Hang on. Sorry. Hold, please. I'll make a copy. I'll render this first. Sorry. Rasterize it so that now the pixels are committed. Now I can go in and I can play with the perspective, and I can make the flooring appear like it's actually in the room, right? So I'm happy with that. Okay. So if I turn on my little rug and I turn on my couch, right? Now I've got this floor. It's a little much. So let's go back into our layer styles. I can actually change the opacity or like the blending mode based on what I want it to do, okay? So I don't want to confuse you guys, so I'm going to turn off the duplicate that's underneath because it's going to be too much. So I can go in here, and if I bring my opacity down, I can make it be like just a subtle little bit, right? Or I can make this be like an imprint of like what's underneath by using the multiply tool. So it's going to pull information from the layer that's beneath it and kind of blend them together. That's why it's called blending modes, right? And then again, play with the opacity to see if we can make it look kind of real, right? We can get more advanced, right? We can say we just want the blue or the green or the red, right? I can blend them as a group. Boo, boo, boo. Right? We can tell it to blend if it's a certain color. It's really all about playing. There's other options like color burn. So anywhere that there is light or dark pixels, it'll like, again, do a different kind of blend. Linear, darker color. We can make it lighten. We can make it be a screen. There's lots and lots of options. And it really is just about playing and what makes it feel believable as, you know, a rendering. Okay? So I want you guys to play with that. I think I'm going to go to, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm going to do overlay. And I'm going to bring the opacity down. Okay. And again, it's not the most believable, but depending on the source of your seamless textures, will, you know, give you more flexibility. There are built-in patterns, like I said, in Photoshop that you can use for things like the floor, for countertops, stuff like that. If you are working with something like a fabric, I want you to use your own patterns, okay? So, let's bring in some curtains and show you how to do that. Okay, so a lot of these, so I'm going to upload all the assets that I want you guys to put into the room. If you want to swap out ones from your mood board, then go for it. But if there's something that's like not on your mood board, like a couch or a lamp or whatever, I just want to make sure that you have all the elements of like a styled room in your rendering, okay? So I'll provide you basics. If you adapt them to be your own items and do your own rendering with your own mood board assets, cool. And these curtains will be one of them, okay? So I'll just show you. Let's open these up. Okay, so as always, we let's select our subject. Looks like we've got everything highlighted here. we can do something quick and dirty. Oops. Let's include the window on this, and then we can always remove it in our room. Okay, so I'm gonna I'll bring the window in. And then we can isolate on our own. When you're doing stuff like this too, make sure that you get like the elements that need to be included, right? Chair legs, curtain rods, finials, stuff like that. And then isolate out the fabrics that you need, okay? So we can bring this in. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm gonna transform it. Right, we know when we're designing a room, we want our curtains near the top of the wall, right? We want to bring the eye up, make a room look taller. Okay, and we'll get rid of all this with a layer mask. Okay, so let's do that now. Real quick. If I hold down shift also, that allows your brush to be a completely straight line, okay? So saves you some work. Oops, I'm deleting the door frame or the window frame too. Okay, there. Okay, that's good enough for me right now. Oops. I'm going to make a copy, as always, and I'm going to isolate just the fabric. So let's select our subject. Let's see if it does a good job. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to refine it by using my little brush. Right, we'll work with just one panel for now. Brush, boom. Okay, so if I turn this one off, there. Okay, so same thing. I double click. I go to pattern overlay, and this time I'm going to use one of my custom patterns. So I'll use this fun little polka dot that I made, and I'm going to make it small. I'm going to change the blend mode. Let's make it, let's see what color, let's see what, I think multiply is the play because I can still see all the folds, right? Okay, let's make it nice. And let's bring our opacity down a little bit. Right? And if I want these shadows of the wrinkles to show back up, what I can do is make a second copy of those curtains, remove the layer mask, or not the layer mask, remove the pattern overlay, right? We'll just delete the effect. And I can then go into my blending mode and I can multiply it, right? Or find the blending mode that makes it look the most realistic. So again, these are things that like I want you to play with, right? I think for me, this one looks good. Linear burn, right? I turn that back on. Now I have my custom pattern applied to my fabric in my room with all the information of the actual curtains still behind it, right? It's not just like a big rectangle with a pattern that's like, this is where the curtains go, right? We still want to see the shadow and the depth and all of that. So that is it.